Hey, I'm Geeky Pastimes, and in today's video I wanted to give you my honest impressions on the first few hours of Battlefield 2042, the full version of the game. So I've been playing it on Xbox Series X with the EA Play trial. Full disclaimer, EA did provide me with a key for the game, so I'll be able to play it on PC tomorrow morning, but I just wanted to let you know what I thought about it from the first few hours. And obviously EA don't get to see this video before I publish it. They don't get any say on anything, which is probably a good thing because I don't particularly like Battlefield 2042. I'm not very impressed with it at all. So some of you might have seen my video about the beta, and in the beta I was worried about lots of different things, particularly like the player animations, the physics, things feeling very floaty, and none of those things have been addressed. Obviously the full game does have some changes from the beta. There's clearly much more content with there being 7 maps instead of just 1, and then you've got Portal and Hazard Zone, and I've had a chance to play them and I'll talk about them in a little bit. And there's, you know, things like more vehicles and more weapons and stuff like that, but it still doesn't feel like a very different game. All of the things that I was complaining about in the beta I still think stand up to the full release. I just don't think that this was ready to be released at all. And I know this is kind of early access because of the gold edition and the EA Play trial and all stuff like that, but there's not even a scoreboard. Like when you're playing the game you can't see how many kills and deaths you've got at all. There's no way to really track how well you're doing other than how well the team's doing, and because they've insisted on having all of the modes as 64 players versus 64 players, you don't really make that much of a difference a lot of the time. You know, in Breakthrough I suppose you could make a push that really changes things, but in Conquest especially, it's very hard to have an impact because there's so many people on your team that it's very hard to get a sense of what you've actually achieved in a game. And it'd be really nice to be able to keep track of your kills. So I'm one of those people who, when I'm playing Call of Duty, I'm always pressing back or escape or whatever just to be able to see the scoreboard all the time, because I want to be keeping an eye on my kill death ratio or my score or how many captures I've got or whatever. And you can't do that in Battlefield 2042, and that, it seems like a petty thing, but it's actually made quite a big difference the way I play the game. It makes me feel like I don't really care about kills and deaths or captures or anything. I just kind of wander around a little bit. Now, another big disclaimer actually before I go on. So far I've only been playing with randoms. My friends haven't got it yet. They're going to be playing on PC tomorrow. So tomorrow I'll be able to play with friends. So far I've just played with randoms in random groups, and that obviously makes it less fun intrinsically. Like, it's going to be more fun once I'm playing with my friends. So first of all, we'll talk about All Out War, and we've got in that Breakthrough and Conquest. Breakthrough so far seems like a complete mess. Like, you have 128 players fighting over 2 objectives. If you think of how chaotic it used to get in like Bad Company 2 when you were playing Rush, it feels like that, but then times like 4. It's insane. Like, there's so many people, there's so many snipers set up at the back, there's so many explosions going off from people throwing grenades and firing rockets and stuff. It just feels like utter chaos, and it's not impossible, like, because there's, you know, an equal number of players on each side. It is just a wave of players, but it just feels very random. It feels like you're constantly getting sniped out from anywhere if you're not moving up in cover all of the time, and if you can't communicate with people, which, bear in mind, there's no voice chat at the moment at all, it's quite hard to make any kind of strategic moves. Instead, you're just kind of hoping you manage to kill a load of people at once and you can push forwards. It feels very random and it doesn't feel very strategic. And then going on to Conquest. In Conquest, there's been a couple of moments that felt really, really good. And if I start with some of the positives, I had a moment where we were pushing into the stadium and there was my entire squad working together and pushing in to fight against loads of enemies, and we took the stadium, but then after we'd taken the stadium and I was kind of exploring a bit, it seems like the entire enemy team converged onto it, and I kind of popped up over the stands and saw a whole army coming towards me. Stuff like that, it's cool. That feels like a new kind of Battlefield moment. That was very cool. Unfortunately, it's very few and far between. Normally it's just scrappy little fights across the entire map. The whole idea of there being lots of different points within one zone for you to capture, it feels like it hasn't really worked out well, because you end up doing that thing where, you know, you'll capture C1 and the enemy will capture C3, then you'll go to C2 and they'll go to C1, and you'll just keep on rotating around. That kind of thing happens like it used to on the whole Conquest maps in previous Battlefield games. Now it just happens within a zone instead. And if you do completely take over a zone and the enemy gives up on it, then you've got a really long distance to travel to get to the next bit. And you can sometimes get light vehicles and stuff, but a lot of the time they've already been claimed, so you can't cool down a vehicle or anything like that. You just kind of have to hoof it and try and get across, which kind of sucks. Some of the other things that I've really not liked about this game, which I did talk about with the beta as well, is the destruction. The destruction is really, really poor, and I think all of us were kind of worried about that. All of us who are big fans of games like Bad Company 2 were worried that the destruction wasn't great because they didn't talk about it, they didn't show videos of it, they didn't really talk about how it would affect the maps. Most of the maps, there's very, very little destruction. There's kind of, you can knock a hole in a wall that's always the same kind of size. You can sometimes destroy things like air conditioning units and stuff that for some reason like fire like an EMP charge out when they're shot. I'm not entirely sure why, and they explode and stuff. It's very, very strange. And then there's glass that breaks and stuff like that. Beyond that, there's not really very much destruction at all. Trees can be broken down and blown up, but sometimes they just go flying off in really unrealistic ways. When vehicles are destroyed, the bodies of the vehicles kind of bounce around the map like they've got no weight to them. That's especially noticeable with the helicopter bodies. They'll kind of spin around all over the place, but they're not interacting with anything. They're not like getting more smashed up as they hit something. They're just bouncing around complete. It's very, very strange, and it's completely immersion breaking. Like, I really don't like it. There's also lots of graphical glitches, so there's things like smoke just getting cut off in the air for no reason, players clipping through things all the time, player animations clipping through things. 2 times I've managed to take someone's dog tags, and both times me and the other player weren't aligned at all. I was like in front of them trying to stab them from the back and stuff. Very, very strange. And all of this stuff, all of the problems with destruction and everything, carry on over to Portal as well. So to talk about Portal for a bit, I've mostly played the Bad Company 2 maps because I'm a massive Bad Company 2 fan. Like, that was the game that I really liked. It was the first game I got every achievement on, I think. I really loved that game so much. And playing it was like, there is definitely a bit of nostalgia in it, but it doesn't play like Bad Company 2. It looks a bit like it, you know, obviously the maps look like it and you've got the weapons and the skins and stuff like that. But it's got all of the same kind of graphical glitches and problems and animations that Battlefield 2042 has. And it has the feel of Battlefield 2042, the movement and everything like that. It doesn't feel like Bad Company 2. I felt that Bad Company 2 felt really weighty. It felt like you were really connected to the world. So when you were like running through buildings sort of falling apart and stuff like that, it really felt very visceral and immersive. And Battlefield 2042 doesn't feel like that at all. I haven't really paid much attention to the destruction in that so far, but I haven't noticed any buildings collapsing or anything like that. I don't think there's anything like that. Obviously you have Caspian Border, you've got the Levolution thing for Battlefield 3 with their aerial falling down, but I haven't seen anything in Bad Company 2 that feels like the kind of destruction you had in that game, which is a shame. And obviously you've only got 2 maps from Bad Company 2, because you've only got 2 maps from each of the games that's in Portal. Some of the things that's nice about Portal, you do have a server browser, which is very, very cool. So being able to go through and just sort of like pick something random, that's pretty good, although you don't really get a sense of what that game type is like, because it just says like modified rules or something, so they could have done something crazy and you won't know about it. But it does seem very easy to find games, and it's very easy to find your friends' games. You can just use codes and stuff like that to find them. So it definitely, they've made it easy to find games. When I was looking, obviously it's still early access, it's just the EA Play thing. There's loads and loads of games that are set up for 128 players and have 1 player in them, or have 5 players in them. So I feel like a lot of Battlefield Portal is either going to be organized stuff with streamers and content creators and communities, or it's going to be you playing against bots, because you're not going to be able to fill a lobby up with random people. There's just too many different people wanting to run lobbies and not enough people wanting to play, which is a real shame. It also seems if you pick the thing from the quick match menu where you say like, I want to play Bad Company 2, it will put you in a game, but then when that game's over, it'll kick you back to the main menu. You don't get to stay in that lobby, which seems like a real shame. I'm not sure if that's how it works with other things in Battlefield Portal, but that's kind of really annoying, because obviously in Battlefield you kind of want to stay with the same lobby, because you start to get to know people and stuff like that, and that's completely missing from it. Now, the last of the 3 modes that you get to play in this is Hazard Zone. I've only had 1 game of Hazard Zone, and like I said, I was playing with random, so it's not probably the best opportunity. I actually liked Hazard Zone more than I expected. I'd heard lots of people saying it wasn't great, lots of people saying the progression doesn't matter, and that does make sense to me. I've heard, I think Stody was saying that you can get a complete loadout, like with the best stuff, with like 500 points. We got 500 points in our first game, and that was without getting any data drives. And the reason we didn't get any data drives was I went around around a map, picking up data drives, being a good player, playing the objective, doing all of that kind of thing. And then when we were waiting for extraction, I got downed because what had happened was there was a AI control, I think it was AI controlled Jeep, came up and was like wrecking us because we all had the default weapons because you start your first game, you don't have any money. We had the default weapons, which meant we didn't have anything that could actually take down a truck. So we just kind of had to hide from it, and eventually it downed me. I got resurrected by a friend because it's quite cool, you can like crawl around while you're downed in Hazard Zone. I got resurrected, which was great, but it seems like I must have dropped my data drives when I got downed, and it didn't automatically pick them up again when I got rezzed, and I couldn't see them on the ground. So when I actually managed to extract and got onto the Osprey and flew away, it then says at the end screen, oh yeah, you didn't get any data drives. It's like, well, that's kind of irritating. No one else stole them. No one else was near me. That's really annoying. But yeah, I thought Hazard Zone, the idea of like going in and then trying to find some of the data drives, choosing which like areas you're going to fight in, choosing like how much risk to put in it, that was fun. And I can imagine there's going to be a lot of kind of strategy involved in that. And if you're playing with friends, it's something where you're actually making some decisions as a squad. That seems pretty cool. The lack of progression is obviously a big deal. The idea that Sodi was saying that if you get out with a few data drives, you've basically got enough money for like 6 games worth of loadouts. That means that essentially it's going to be like, what's the point of doing more of them? Like you're not really gaining anything. It's not like Escape from Tarkov where you're getting better and better weapons and gear and better money and upgrading your base and all stuff like that. You're just getting enough money for the next mission, and if you're basically whatever you're doing, you're getting that kind of money enough for one more mission, then there's not going to be any kind of incentive to do anymore, which is a real shame. So overall, I'm not impressed with Battlefield 2042. I think that the game's definitely not ready. There's a lot of like really rough edges, and like the actual core of it I don't think is that much fun. And to me, the reason for it not being that much fun is because of the player count. I really think the player count has ruined it. I don't think having 128 players in the game makes the game more fun intrinsically, but I think it probably has caused a lot of like cutbacks in terms of how much detail there can be in a map, how much interactivity there can be, how much destruction there can be. All of that stuff I imagine is much harder when you've got more people on the map. So I feel like it's kind of a exchange they've made that's probably not worth it. I would have preferred they stuck to 64 players but had the kind of graphical fidelity and had the destruction and everything. Even if it was just the same as what was in Battlefield 5, that would have been much better. I'm hoping it'll be better when I get to play on PC tomorrow. I'll do updated opinions if I like it more. I'm going to bring more videos about Battlefield because obviously it's a great thing to make content for. Some funny things have happened already, so I'll probably make some videos about funny things that have been happening, and when I'm playing with friends, maybe I'll enjoy it a lot more and I'll do an updated impressions thing when I've done that. We'll see. But if you want to see me streaming this, it's twitch.tv/Geeky Pastimes. Make sure you like and subscribe this video and turn your notifications on if you want to see more. And obviously there'll also be lots of Call of Duty content and lots of Halo content coming soon. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.